125 minutes and 9 shootout rounds of Predators weekend hockey later, and this team's identity may be starting to take shape. But is this really a team built to compete down the stretch? We're going to debate that on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Monday, our week, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders community and, of course, our everydayers who tune in to talk Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio. And friends, I have a Thelma to my Hockey Louise.
You do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
Well, it was a hockey-packed weekend for the Nashville Predators, and we are here to break it all down for you. On today's show, we are, of course, going to recap the back-to-back games with our one word to describe what unfolded at Bridgestone Arena this weekend. We're also going to shout out some of the unsung heroes on this roster, and we may have to call out a player or two who maybe didn't show up this weekend. Plus, the picture of this team's identity may be getting a little bit clearer. We're going to talk about whether this team is built to compete down the stretch. Before we dive into all of that, we want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Emma, here is what's real. And we just might as well be transparent with our listeners. This was a tough hockey weekend for our respective dogs because Saturday night, Emma got a very rare night off from being at Bridgestone Arena to cover the game. Sunday night, I got a very rare night off, so I was not at Bridgestone Arena. So we watched the games at home with our dogs. Emma, what took it off the rails for Minka on Saturday night for you?
Well, Minka was sleeping peacefully, as she does, and then Ozzy Weisblatt scored in the 84th round of the shootout against the Kings, and it was a beautiful, beautiful shot too. And I may have yelled, I may have clapped. I'm not quite sure what the reaction was, but it was audible, and it woke up Minka, and she side-eyed me, proceeded to get off the couch and go into the next room so she could continue sleeping peacefully. So it was a rough weekend, but I hear Nash had a rough night on Sunday.
Yeah, same burden to bear for Nash, sleeping peacefully. And then look, friends, I'm not at the game, so I can say what I say. And when Spencer Stastney scored that goal, I said what I said. And I said it loud, and I was super excited for him. And I woke Nash up, and I got the same side eye. And he walked off into our bedroom and went under the bed and slept for the rest of the game. So, while the Predators went 1-1, our dogs went 0 for 2 on the weekend of hockey. It was tough. It was a tough night to be a dog in Nashville, friends. A tough weekend. But Predators, interesting weekend of hockey. They came away with a very, very hard-fought win over the LA Kings. That was a 9-round shootout game. Predators came away with that win. And then Sunday night, they lost 3-2 to the Dallas Stars. So 1-1 on this weekend's back-to-back. Emma, if you had to collectively describe the takeaways from Saturday and Sunday's games for this team, what one word would you use to describe what unfolded?
Goodness, I do not know. Because it was two very different games.
Yes,
but I think
very much.
So I think that I'm gonna have to go with my one word is two words because it's actually a name. And that's DJ Khaled, because DJ Khaled in every one of his songs always says, another one. And so that is very much what this felt like. It was like, okay, so wow, look, the Predators scored 4 goals with a goalie in the net on Saturday. And it was like, oh man, we might actually be seeing some offense here. And then Sunday, another one. They score 2 goals and that's it. And haunted by those familiar demons, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that, now it's like you said, you're starting to see a little bit more of an identity. You're still seeing some fight there, but I mean, in Sunday's game, the penalties.
What are we
That I
doing?
mean, you can't keep playing with fire and not expect to get burned. I mean, the Predators penalty kill was 23 for 23. It was perfect at home. Until Mikko Rantanen scored with 1 second left. 1 second left on the delay of game penalty to Nick Hague. And that's what did it. That's what broke
Yeah.
the. So it's like you can't play with fire, not expect to get burned. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where I stand with it.
You know what's funny is we're very much on the same wavelength. My one word is just 2 letters, and it's AI. Because here's what I'm noticing in my social media feeds that I try not to spend too much time in those jingweeds. But there's a lot of videos that I'm like, is that real or is that AI? And a lot of them are AI, friends. And it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. And like you said, this was a weekend of 2 very different games. And so it's a little bit hard to know for sure what is real and what isn't. Overall, I would say this weekend, this looked like a team that is improving. Now, I'm not saying they're out here chasing the Stanley Cup this season, but it's a team that looks like they're improving. It looks like they're correcting some of the mistakes that we've seen early in the season. It looks like this is a team that's gaining confidence, that's building some chemistry, that's more resilient. But I still have this question of, is it real or is this AI? Still trying to figure it out with this Nashville Predators team. I don't know quite yet what to believe. We, of course, always ask our insiders for their one word. And here's what we got. Confused. I mean, they look better, don't they? Question mark or not? Maybe. Sometimes. That is the cry of my soul. Exactly. Another insider said, my one word is plan. Even on a back-to-back, the guys had energy and played well. I thought most of the glaring mistakes from last Tuesday were fixed. They may not be a playoff team, but Weisblatt, Stastney, Wilsby, and Wood will keep getting better. Another insider said, my one word is meh. I hoped they would win, but toe-to-toe with Big D is fine by me. We are 2-2 on the homestand so far. So the Predators 2-2 on a 5-game homestand. Tomorrow night, they host the Tampa Bay Lightning before they head back out on the road. And this was a big homestand. We had said at the beginning of it, hopefully we're going to understand who this team is. We're getting glimpses of it, Emma. But again, is it real or is it AI? You just don't know quite what to believe. Now, there is one player that I think we need to talk about right off the bat, and that is Ryan O'Reilly. He has kind of been the guy for the Nashville Predators. And here is what's interesting. Over the weekend, 2 goals, 2 assists in this back-to-back. He is Nashville's leading goal scorer. He leads in points. He's tied in assists 10 games into the season. But Emma, I don't know that Ryan O'Reilly is who we need to be Nashville's best player at this point in the season.
No, he shouldn't be, but I think that Ryan O'Reilly, I've always thought was the right kind of veteran piece to add to this team because he's the kind of guy that can sort of support and bolster those younger players and help get the most out of them. Like when the young players aren't able to step up, he can be the one who one of the ones who kind of, comes in and takes over, puts the game on his back. But as opposed to like a Steven Stamkos, for example, maybe not the right veteran to bring in.
Yeah.
But I think that he has been their best player. Actually, I would say Juuse Saros.
Juuse Saros.
Best player. their
Yeah.
best skater. He's been their best
There you
skater.
go.
But I think that I'm not as upset about that, because it's like, well, if everyone else can't put it together yet, like, he's the one who's going to do it. Now, do you want him to be your best player for the entire season? No. Ideally, that is not a sign of growth in your identity as a team. But for now, it's still pretty early. So I'm going to say I'm okay with it.
Coming up, we're going to hear from Ryan O'Reilly when it comes to his offensive production so far. We're also going to talk about a couple of under the radar players who seem like the game is starting to click for. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to fanduel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Emma, talking about Ryan O'Reilly, I have to say that hearing like he is kind of the offensive leader of this team, I had a moment of, is he? Because here's what's real. And I say this respectfully, Ryan O'Reilly's goals have really been forgettable. Ryan O'Reilly's goals, they have not been pretty. If we're talking about like a beauty score, Ryan O'Reilly's goals, not high, not high. And I think that had me going, wait a minute, what do you mean he is the leading scorer for the team right now? Of course, we asked Ryan O'Reilly about this over the weekend. And of course, Ryan O'Reilly took a minute to point out what he's not doing. This is what he had to say on his offensive game.
Yeah, I've been getting some lucky bounces. That's for sure. A couple of goals aren't pretty. It's just kind of throwing it at the net, and it's going in for me, and it's nice. Yeah, I think at a time we need it now. Still power play. I've been struggling a lot even tonight too. There's some chances there, especially in the OT, to put it away and fighting it. So it's there's improvements to be had for sure. But yeah, I've been getting some lucky bounces, and it's a good place tonight though. How Phil on that goal, that was wins a great battle, does what he does, gets there. I just throw it to the net and it goes in. So that's it's good. It's always nice when you contribute offensively, but still a lot better in areas for sure.
Good old Ryan O'Reilly, the guy who is either going to be perfect or he's going to put his own leg in a wolf trap and then chew it off to free himself. Because we worry, Ryan. It's interesting to me, Emma, how he has kind of stepped in, especially in the gap where Jonathan Marchessault was out, because not even necessarily statistically speaking, but Jonathan Marchessault, especially with Haula and Bunting, that line really was the driving force for Nashville's offense. And then Marchessault went out. And it was like, okay, wait a minute. What do we have now if we don't have that line going? And what you have is Ryan O'Reilly. And I really think there are moments where Ryan O'Reilly is the duct tape in our duct tape in a dream. Like, he's the guy holding the dream together right now.
Although if you ask him, I mean, he's just like shredded duct tape that doesn't even stick anymore.
No adhesive.
Yeah, no. No, I agree. I think that he, it's interesting when he talks about, well, I just got some lucky bounces. Hey, man, sometimes that's all you need.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just do need to throw things on the net, especially Steven Stamkos, if this is a team that is not going to be scoring 4 or 5 pretty goals every night. They're probably not going to score more than 2 by, based on experience here. But I think that if you know that about your team, that about this team's identity, they're going to be tough to play against. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to be defensively sound. All fine. Sometimes you need to do that. You need to get in front of the net. You need to get those ugly goals, just throw things at the net. And that's where I keep coming back to Stamkos not being a fit for this team.
Yeah.
because that's not his game. It's not. And so I think that, I mean, of course, in Sunday's game, you saw Stamkos at center because Fedor Svechkov was scratched. And so he became more of like the distributor, I guess. But either way, I think that, with this team and this identity, that is what you need. And now you want to see more than one guy doing it. And you want to see some more results from it. But I think that that is kind of the style of play that this team needs to lean into right now, like getting in front of the net, getting those greasy goals, whatever. I mean, looking at Saturday against LA, that goal from Cole Smith, too, the goal from Jonathan Marchessault on the power play
Come on
on
down.
Sunday. I mean, all of those very, they weren't pretty. They really weren't. And that's what you kind of have to go for now. And I think that, you talked about that line with Marchessault and Bunting and Holla that had been driving the identity. I think that now it's very much the Michael McCarron line as it was a couple years ago. So I know we're going to talk about that more, but I think that, it's good to see them not fighting this identity and just kind of
Yes.
leaning into it a little bit more. Now, I would like to see that with a little bit more consistency, but it's a start.
I agree with you so much. This looks like a team that's like, okay, this is who we are. Now we've got to get better at it. But I agree with you. There is a dissonance with Stamkos and this identity. And if, it's something we're going to dive into a little bit later in this week, more in depth. But it's interesting to me because you have Philip Forsberg, who I would say is high skill. Philip Forsberg is high skill. He is high skill with the puck. He is high skill shooting, all of that. But he also is built like a brick poop house and can play that identity. He has both. And I think we're seeing Stamkos struggle with the other part of that. He, of course, is high skill, high shooting, all of that. But the other component, he's struggling to find that aspect of his game. And, at his tenure in the league, he is a little bit who he is. So put a pin in that, friends, because I think we're going to have to cycle back to that and dive into that. I agree with what you're saying, though. We counted on that Marchessault Holla Bunting line to start the season, but all of a sudden there's a new sheriff in town. And it is the fourth line, friends, and that is Michael McCarron, noted goal scorer Cole Smith, and young Ozzy Weisblatt. This line has decided that they are going to be the identity line for Nashville, just like we saw earlier in the season. And here's what's big. If you have two lines playing like that, you're halfway there. Oh, and you get excited balloons on YouTube.
You get balloons. Yes. Well, can I also just point out, noted goal scorer Cole Smith has one more goal than Steven Stamkos does. Just saying.
Showed up.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Yeah, it's an interesting little situation we have here, friends. I have loved what we have seen, especially this weekend, but even leading up to this weekend, what we have seen from McCarron and Smith and Weisblatt. Of course, if you missed Saturday night's game in the, friends, wait for it, 9th round of the shootout, when Ann was completely out of Tums, who scores the game winner? Ozzy freaking Weisblatt. And then you have Cole Smith parting the Red Sea in the slot that apparently is not lava. Is not lava, scoring a goal. Like, you are seeing this team do things well. Michael McCarron, one of the best guys for this team right now in the face-off circle. We asked Andrew Brunette about Ozzy Weisblatt and playing on a line with McCarron and Smith and what that line is doing. This is what Bruno had to say Saturday night.
Well, I love his energy, his speed and energy, and his relentlessness on pucks. And then he has some skill, and he can make some plays. So I think he fits in. Kind of talked about it the other night. Those guys work so hard; they get so many pucks. Ozzy has a little bit of playmaking ability to kind of keep pucks alive and make some plays. So yeah, he's been really good since he's been inserted in the lineup. So I'm happy for him.
I think at the end of the day, it's a choice to, work hard or not. You either want to do it or you don't. And I know those guys always want to do it. So I'm right there with them, and I want to jump in the driver's seat with them. So it's fun playing with them, and they compete and communicate so well. So it's fun for me.
So that was Ozzy Weisblatt talking after Andrew Brunette. I asked him, what do you like about playing with McCarron and Smith? I thought he gave such a great answer. You either do the work or you don't. And that is what this all comes down to for this Nashville Predators team. You either do the work or you don't. And it's not about doing the work perfectly, but you are either bought in or you're not. And you see McCarron and Smith and Ozzy Weisblatt. That's a line that's like, okay, if this is how we're going to play, if this is who we are, let's be the best at this that we can possibly be. Could use a little bit of that buy-in up and down the rest of the lineup. And just, I think, Emma, there are just still some players we need to see get going. But when you look at these two games, is there any other player that you look at and you say, you know what, outstanding weekend for you?
Spencer Stastney.
Come on, girl. Say it for Nash.
Spencer Stastney, I shout from the rooftops as Nash hides under the bed. That is, I mean, he looked fantastic. I mean, yes, we saw him score a goal on Saturday or Sunday against Dallas. Now, of course, he was then unfortunately the one in the 2-on-1 on Dallas's goal that tied the game. But it's
give the guy a break. He's one man.
Yeah. No, I know. But I think that he has really looked good this season. He got rewarded for it offensively on Sunday, but I thought ever since coming into camp, he has looked so much stronger. And you really just love to see that for him after what he's been through, truly very seriously contemplating hanging him up couple years ago or last year even. So I think that it's good to see, he's got that buy-in. He is playing like he really wants this spot. I think that he is, it was kind of, I feel like a lot of people assume that, when the season started, Nick Hague was injured and it was like, well, Stastney's probably the odd man out once Nick Hague comes back. And hey, well, he bought himself some time with Roman Josi now being injured.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way he's playing, it's hard to justify taking him out of this lineup. And so I think that, he's just, you can see the work that he's put in and he's being really tenacious on pucks. He's not, being timid. He's not scared to throw the body around a little bit. So I think that he is definitely taking a big step forward.
Yeah. I talked with Spencer Stastney last week. I've got a piece coming out on him this week, but it was very funny because I found a very delicate way to ask him, did you bulk up? You look much bigger. And he said, no, not really. I just continued to work out over the off season. I usually don't look like this at the beginning of the season. And I said to him, how do you do that? How do you take a season off and be like, oh, look, it's September. I'm back to being a professional athlete. And he said he's got really good genes. So Spencer Stastney's mom and dad, nice. You did well. Plus, he's just a delightful human being. So also, mom and dad, you did well. Coming up, we do have to talk about who's still struggling for the Nashville Predators and what it's going to take to get some of these players and some of these lines going. We're also going to talk about this weekend's goaltending. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Hockey season is in full swing, friends, and nothing beats being in the arena for those games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's so easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is show up and cheer on your team. But friends, that's where Game Time comes in. This is the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. You're going to love that what you see is what you pay. There are no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, you can see exactly what your view is going to look like before you buy the tickets with their in-app seat view features. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use our code LOCKEDONNHL for $25 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL for $25 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, Emma, do want to talk real quick about goaltending because we got a look at Saros and Annunen. Saros played against the LA Kings. Annunen got the start against the Dallas Stars. In my mind, Emma, I had that flip-flopped. In my mind, I thought, okay, I would put Annunen against LA and Saros against Dallas, but, Bruno didn't call me, or I missed his call when he was setting the lineup. What did you think of what we saw in net from each of those goaltenders?
Well, I had the same thought initially. I would have put Saros in against Dallas, but then once the LA game went to 84 rounds of a shootout, I was like, well, maybe Saros was the right choice here. I thought he looked great. I think that Annunen against Dallas looked really good. I thought he looked really good, especially compared to his last performance against the Maple Leafs, which low bar, but regardless, I mean, this is a really strong, really good Dallas Stars team, and I think that Annunen looked much better. He looked more composed. He looked comfortable. He made some big stops there.
Huge.
And again, with that penalty kill, the Predators penalty kill, notwithstanding the goal that they did end up allowing with 1 second left to Mikko Rantanen, I think that, your goalie, we say this all the time, your goalie's got to be your best penalty killer. And I think that Saros has been that, but Annunen was more than up for the task. And now you would like to see the Predators spend less time in the penalty box, but if that's apparently too much to ask, it was good to see Annunen, really kind of looking a little more comfortable back there.
Yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity for him. He's been sitting on that Toronto game for a while, and as a goaltender, you don't want to sit on a game like that. You want to get back out there. And again, I was like, against Dallas, is that what we're really doing? But I thought he looked really great. He came up with some very big saves. It was not like, there weren't opportunities for Dallas to put the puck in the back of the net significantly more than they did. So I felt good to see Annunen get that game. I wish he would have gotten the win. Juuse Saros, I don't want to hear one squawk from anyone about Juuse Saros. Not one squawk. This whole Juuse Saros is a slow starter, but he'll warm up. Juuse Saros is warm. He's fine. He doesn't need your sass. Saros has been, I agree with you. I said earlier, Ryan O'Reilly's been the best player. No, that's Juuse Saros. And I think everybody in that locker room would agree, the Predators' record is what it is because of Juuse Saros. The wins that they've gotten are because of Juuse Saros. So, shout out to them. We mentioned in passing, and we're going to have to mention in depth at some point, the struggle of Steven Stamkos. And I get that this is not his style. I get that this is a mismatch maybe for his skill set and style of play versus what the Predators, honestly, this is just how they have to play to be successful. You saw an identity. And let's be honest, Emma, we did not see that for 82 games last season. We finished last season having no freaking idea who this team was. You know what? I think we have an idea of how they have to play to be successful. Is it pretty? No. But is it something to build on? Yes. When you look at this roster, are there players that you look at and say, okay, you fit here, but you got to step up? Like, who are the players that we need to see a little bit more from?
Well, I mean, I agree. First of all, I think that it is nice to see, and I said this earlier, it's nice to see them actually lean into this identity more. It's like, I think the addition of Stamkos, quite frankly, more so than the other people that they added, but Stamkos in particular is what maybe had this team, or had a lot of us confused, I think, about like, oh, we're going to try to be this. We're going to try to be this identity. And it's like, oh no, the rest of us can't do that. And it's very clear that there is one odd man out here,
Mm-hmm.
that when the rest of the team finally gets their confidence back to say, like, okay, we can be this gritty, hard-nosed style of team now, it kind of leaves him by the wayside a little bit. I will also just say 9 rounds, also known as 84 rounds of a shootout. You know who did not get in there? Who
Is
was
that
not
not
given a chance?
shocking?
I think it's very telling. I
I
think it's
think it says
very
something.
telling. Steven Stamkos, 9 rounds. I mean, it makes you wonder. It's like, would he have been before Nick Hague or after, in the order? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
no disrespect to Nick Hague, but, shut down defenseman, not a guy that you
right.
would put in for a shootout. So yeah, of note, of
Of
note,
note. And I
very
think
clear that this team is a round hole and there is one square peg that really sticks out here. And just again, of note. As far as the rest of the team and guys who fit and you want to see a little bit more from them. I think, well, let's start with the forwards. First of all, I think Matthew Wood has looked fantastic in the
love
couple
that.
games he's been here.
Mhm.
Would like to see him maybe a little. I mean, he's been more of a distributor, but I'd like to see him more kind of gelling with that line with Forsberg and O'Reilly. I like where he's going, so I just like to see what that looks like with some more reps. I think that, I mean, defensively, I could see a little bit more from Adam Wilsby.
He's had
Wilsby,
some tough games.
he has, as has Brady Shea. I think both of those guys are capable of playing this system and playing this style. And we've seen flashes of it this year, even. I mean, Wilsby, I thought, had a great first couple games. He looked great. Shea had the shift of his life in the last period against LA when they finished the game on the penalty kill. He looked great. He was also running point on the power play with Roman Yossi being out. So I think that you're seeing flashes of it. You're like, oh, okay. And then they make a blunder, like a turnover or something, and you're like, oh, what was
Oh,
that?
yeah.
What was that? So it's like you would like to see those flashes turn into more consistency on defense. But I think that overall, I'm not as concerned with the fit for those guys in the
Yes.
system. I think it'll come. But you would like to see some more consistency there.
Yeah, I agree with you defensively. Those are kind of the 2 players where I'm like, okay, it's there. This is going to work. We just need to kind of get it up to speed. The 2 players that I want to see more from, and again, this cycles back to a conversation that we're sort of dancing around, but sort of having, Luke Evangelista and Fedor Svechkov. Svechkov was a healthy scratch on Sunday. Those 2, Evangelista got a shot with Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly, but I think when you bring in Matthew Wood, that you need to put Wood with those 2, and so that leaves Evangelista, Svechkov, and Stamkos. And if Steven Stamkos is not going to score, Steven Stamkos needs to help his line mates get better and score. And those are 2 players that I really would like to see going. And of course, I am not saying it is all on Steven Stamkos. He's not the scapegoat for everything going wrong with the Nashville Predators. But whether you like the role or not, if you are a veteran on a line with 2 younger players, you have a responsibility to set the tone for that line. And where Nashville is at right now, the bottom line is every single one of their veterans has to be mindful of helping younger players. That's just where the Predators are. You can like it, you can hate it, but the plan is in pen, friends. And the pen plan says veterans have to develop some of these young players. And we just really haven't seen much. Svechkov, no points so far on the season. Evangelista, we're not seeing him finish opportunities. He's had some great chances. He's had a lot of advanced, statistically sound games, but it's not converting. So those are 2 players that I want to see improve. But this team is what this team is. This team is what this team is. This team is going to be successful the way they're going to be successful. Is it going to be pretty? Probably not. Are they a cup contender? Bless your heart if you think so. I love that for you. Walk in that happiness. But it is what it is. And this weekend, I think we saw glimpses of the fact that what it is can have some success. And after last season, some successes, we are happy. Now, we won a cup in Nashville, but this is probably not that year, friends. Just breaking it to you gently, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? 4-4-2. I think we can all agree that's a start that we would have killed for last year.
Yes.
So you take what you can get. I think that, again, I think that you said it perfectly. This team is what it is. It's not going to be something it's not. They're not going to turn into an offensive juggernaut overnight with the personnel that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So really what it boils down to is, like I said earlier, you don't fight that. You just lean into it. And it seemed like last year, so much of it was this team was fighting that. And it was like, no, we're going to be an offensive juggernaut. And what happens? Then you score no goals. So I think that, again, it's a very clear problem. And as you said, Steven Stamkos is not the end all be all. He's not to blame for every single one of this team's problems, but it has become, now that we've gotten the benefit of seeing last season and this season, albeit a small sample size, but seeing them side by side, you can really start to see it more clearly about, oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I'm not saying that this team magically turns into a contender once you get Stamkos off the roster, but it is just very clear that there's one of these things is not like the other. And I think that when that thing is such a big piece of your offense,
Yeah.
that's a problem. I would say it would be less problematic if Ozzy Weisblatt was not fitting in.
Right.
Your fourth line winger, it's fine, kind of a
Mhm.
dime a dozen. No disrespect to Ozzy Weisblatt. I would just like to take a little victory lap about that, because I think that over the off season, everyone was talking about, oh, well, there's one forward spot open. It's going to be Joachim Kimmel. Kimmel's going to get it. Well, Kimmel did get a spot for a minute.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at that open forward spot on the fourth line, I'm like, how do you not put Ozzy Weisblatt in that role? I mean, he's tailor-made for it. He is Kiefer Sherwood light, maybe even a little Kiefer Sherwood heavy, depending on the day. I mean, he's fits that style of play perfectly.
Yes.
And so I think that he's a big part of why that fourth line has come back to kind of come back around as far as driving the identity of this offense, because they found a piece that fits there. So again, I'm not saying you need a team full of Ozzy Weisblatts, because that's not going to help you much either. But I think it's about getting the right people in the right roles.
Yes.
And, ideally you would want a guy like a Kimmel to be ready. I don't think he was, and that's okay. But, ideally you want to see the guys like the Tyson Josts of the world not be everyday starters for this
Mhm.
team.
Yeah.
But, you get what you get right now.
Yes. Yeah. This is not linear. This roster, not linear. This team's success, it's not linear. But it's something, y'all. And after last season, 10 games in, we will take something. Nashville Predators finish out their 5-game homestand tomorrow night as they host, wait for it, the ex-girlfriend, the Tampa Bay Lightning, come to town. Will Steven Stamkos crawl into one of their bags and try to go home with them? I don't know. On tomorrow's show, we have a special guest coming on for the crossover, our OG Locked On Predators friends. will recognize him. We're going to break down tomorrow's game against the Lightning. We're going to talk about these two teams, different expectations, but kind of similar starts, and what we need to see for Nashville to come away with a victory tomorrow night. Emma, before we log off on our Monday, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan. You can find my work at the Hockey News. And on Tuesday, you can find me keeping an eye on the team bus for the Tampa Bay Lightning to see if Stamkos tries to sneak on, because I can see it.
I can see it, friends. He's making a break for it. You can find me on social media at ANK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio. You can find me in my room trying to coax Nash Vegas out from under the bed after I screamed for Spencer Stastney. Sorry, not sorry. That's going to do it for our Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with that crossover episode. We'll see you then.